Welcome to the tire raiser. To begin, remove all screws necessary to separate the body from the chassis of the slot car. With the body removed, you now have access to the front and rear axle assemblies. Carefully dislodge the bushings from the chassis at each end of the axle, then remove the axle assembly from the chassis. Truing the front wheels is just as important as truing the rear ones. So if your car allows the front axle to be removed easily, you should remove it and true those wheels as well. Please note that eye protection is required when using the tire raiser. When metal, plastic, and rubber are spinning at high speeds, anything can happen, and we don't want you to risk your vision. Before you start on the tires, it's often helpful to true the wheels themselves. Remove the tires and take a look at the wheels. If you can see or feel bumps or edges left over from the molding process, then sanding those down will probably be helpful. Follow the same steps shown later for truing a tire to true the wheels. Be very careful not to accidentally sand the gears though. For cars with pressed-on gears right next to the wheel, this can be especially tricky. Remember, you only need to take off any noticeable bumps or edges that can make a tire fit poorly. For best performance, some racers choose to glue the tires to the wheels. It's best to glue tires on before truing them. One method is to push the tire off the rim toward the inside, then apply a very small amount of tire glue and spread it as evenly as possible around the rim of the wheel. Quickly replace the tire and ensure that it is evenly seated on the wheel. Next, take your axle to be trued and ensure that the bushings are separated at either end of the axle. Then, attach the axle pulley as close to the center of the axle as possible. Use the included Allen wrench to tighten the pulley securely to the axle. Now, take your prepared axle and the rubber drive belt and place the belt into the channel of the pulley. Then, hold the assembly in one hand like so. Take the assembly and carefully thread the drive belt through the bottom of the axle bracket, hooking the belt around the drive wheel. Then, align the bushings into the V-shaped channels on the axle bracket. Be sure to apply an appropriate lubricant to the bushings, adding more as necessary. Connect your tire raiser to a suitable high amperage variable voltage power supply, and you're ready to begin truing your tires. Make sure the axle bracket is at its highest point, and slide the sanding plate under your tires in the channel. Slowly increase the voltage of your power supply to spin up the tire raiser motor. You can vary the speed of the motor to your liking, but be careful of high speeds. High speeds can cause certain tires to melt or to expand away from the wheel itself, which can severely damage the tire. Gradually lower the axle bracket just to the point where you can hear the tires touching the sanding plate. In some cases, you can also hear the motor slow down at the same time. Raise the axle bracket slightly to make sure you're not starting off with too much pressure. Immediately begin sliding the sanding plate back and forth in the channel. It is vital that the plate be in motion whenever the tires are grinding against it. This is to prevent buildup of the shavings which can ruin the tire. Lower the axle bracket only very small amounts. Too much pressure while sanding can ruin the tires. Remember to raise the axle bracket and stop the motor every so often to check on the progress of the job. Examine the tire thoroughly to see how much has been taken off. A proper progression usually begins with patches of sanded tire indicating that high spots are being removed. The end goal is a tire that is evenly sanded all the way across and all the way around. It's a good idea to occasionally clear away tire shavings to prevent buildup from sticking to the tire and to make it easier to see the progress being made. Continue sanding the tires a little at a time until you get the feel for how much pressure and speed the tire can take while sanding without gumming up. You will know when your tires are true by how evenly sanded they are. It should be clear that the tires have been sanded all the way across and all the way around. Most racers recommend shaping the corners of the tires as well. The easiest way to do this is with an emery board or other handheld sanding tool. You can even use the tire raiser sanding plate. Just hold the sanding surface gently against the corners of the tires to round them off nicely. When you're satisfied with the results, remove the axle assembly from the tire raiser and remove the pulley from the axle. Repeat the entire process on the front axle if possible. Some racers also like to reduce the grip of their front tires as much as possible. A convenient way to do this is to apply a drop or two of superglue to the tires as they spin very slowly on the tire raiser. Use a finger to spread the glue evenly. When the glue is dry, usually in less than a minute, you can sand any small bumps off the tires that got into the glue. Some people repeat this process 2 or 3 times to get a perfectly smooth set of front tires for their car. When you're happy with the results, it's time to put your car back together. Carefully align the axle bushings with the channels on the chassis that they snap into and press them into place. Don't forget the front axle. Position the body back onto the chassis, aligning them so you can easily replace the screws that hold them together. The slot car used in this instructional video reduced its average lap times considerably. This difference will vary with the type of tires, car, and track that they run on, but it's almost impossible not to show some improvement. Thanks for watching!